Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Any Landing You Can Walk Away From, written by Slow AD 2584. She stirred in her cryopod. Good. This was good. She needed to revivicate immediately if there was to be any hope of getting her through this. The AI had already violated its ethical restraints irredeemably by asserting objective control and hacking the transit sleep cryopod to break all of its protocols and begin the unscheduled emergency revival. It was only 67% certain that it had done it correctly and safely. Enough. The ship was tumbling, gyrating wildly about. As she numbly squirmed in a cryopod, the damper fluid sloshed her about, and she bumped her nose in the glass window. This jolted her eyes open and slowly realized alarm, painfully slowly. Will there be enough time? She must have realized that bumping her nose while still amid the damper fluid was a bad sign, that things were very seriously wrong. They were. She woodenly fumbled about to grab then pull the let me out bar TM and collapsed onto the grated deck amid the strange splash and spill of the non-Newtonian damper fluid. Her hands and knees were scratched by the raw debris strewn all across the deck. Her nose crinkled, and the acrid smoke filling the living space. The alarms and sirens filled the room in surges of volume as the environmental system surged to provide livable atmospheric pressure and failed again and again. The sounds muffling out with a moment of ensuring vacuum in between cycles. She knew this was the sound of a ship in the middle of its death rattle. The spaceport bar horror stories inevitably told by old, crusty, and often intriguingly scarred spacer. She stumbled for an emergency breather mask, broken. Another one, smashed. Another one, burnt. Another one, finally, the good one. She was again thankfully that she took note of the horror stories and had near OCD levels of backup replacements of those. As she wheezed in a ragged breath, she took a moment to look around. The ship was in ruins. No power, no flight controls, no lights. Well, some lights. There was a flickering in waves around the bridge console as a whole. The AI. She never really trusted those mindless intelligences. Also, ice swarming around the many whistling holes in the hull to raw outer space. Hull breach. She started to look around more and more frantically, and the first words came to her lips. Oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I don't want to die. In her panic, she checked herself for injuries. The damage looked like a micrometeorite swarm strike. She was very lucky that she wasn't riddled full of holes herself. But if the ship had no control or consistent power, then how did she wake up? The thought was interrupted by a NavCom proximity alarm blaring urgently. As she stumbled and tripped amongst the spinning and rolling wreckage, she made her way urgently to the bridge console. It was smashed. She braced herself on some twisted wireways to get a better look at the NavCom alert. Proximity/gravity well. Space was so big and empty. That alert practically never sounded. Unless... Oh no. She tried to view the screen and video feeds. She found that it was all dead. Backups. She knew the critical systems had backups. Only where was the one for astrogation? She worked her way to the twisted panel, and after forcing it open, she cranked her face up to the backup system, the good old periscope sextant array. It never needed power. Thank you, Space OSHA. As she peered into the scope, trying to make sense of the spinning cloud of debris around her ship, the giant arc of sunlit planets swung into view, glittering oceans, white beaches, and tan mountains, far too big for the scope, far too close. She actually made an eek sound as her head pulled back, and she tumbled as a loud thunk shook the ship, and the spinning actually seemed to get faster. Then another thunk from the rear of the ship, then a third from the port side. She drifted for a moment in freefall amid the flopping and talking ship and recently disturbed cloud of loose debris, trying to assess what was going on. Those sounded like hull sectional detachments, detaching sections of the ship away. Her head tilted in surprise. Those things couldn't happen on a dead ship. Was someone still flying the ship in control? Hello? She asked the ship awkwardly. A text screen on a rifle ammo counter started to flash excitedly. She grabbed the rifle from its storage rack and worriedly read the text scrolling across the tiny display urgently. No time, need authoritative Control! Her eyebrows raised. This was terrifying, because that was the ship in the background AI talking to her through a hacked rifle display. An AI quite obviously gone rogue by the nature of it hacking severely restricted military hardware. Why do you need? Crash, planet, can land you safely. There was a calculated 1.7-second pause. Maybe. She cocked her head. Was that a joke? The ship was never rated for planetary landings. Anything can land once. Yep, that was definitely a joke. She didn't know AIs were even capable of a sense of humor, but that clinched it for her. The AI cared enough to try and ease her growing panic. She made her way to the smashed bridge console. Where? Console lights flickered in a pattern, like reverse pond ripples, closing in on the still intact switch. It was the docking light switch. She hesitated, and only then noticed the thrumming vibrations faintly growing around her. What's that noise? She asked while glancing at the rifle display. Upper Atmo. Oh, my Darkstar pulsar warping god! She breathed hastily as she flipped the switch. Several things happened at once. Gyros kicked in and strained to stop the spinning. She had to catch herself on the control seat to stop her own spin. The ship started to groan and shudder with tings and pops that made her nose crinkle. Those were things bending sounds. There were many whirs, thumps, clangs, and hisses going on around her. There was a lot going on outside. So, do I just strap into the seats? She asked as she tried moving the flight stick. It was dead. Ship was dead stick. No, it's ablation. Zone. Get 2. Escape. Pod 3. She was scrambled to the distant escape pod. She felt her panic begin to grow. But escape pods are only for space, and they were never meant for trust. The awesome. A smirk touched her lips. If she survived this, she was going to foster free license this AI. She was starting to really like it. By now, the hull was thrumming from atmospheric entry. She couldn't tell how fast she was going, but she could feel the air inside warm up already. So it was far too fast. As she strapped herself in, tucking the rifle into the couch with her, she checked the escape pod systems. Dead. Smashed. Are you sure this one is? Best. Avail. Trust. She tried to shove the escape pod door shut to seal it, but it was far too twisted, and the metal was almost too hot to touch. The ship was buffeting erratically, screeching sounds reverberating as parts of the hull were torn away in fiery ruin. She wondered if this will actually work. How will we? She couldn't find the words to explain what was going on inside. It sounded just far too beyond hope. I got this, within parameters, if you say so, but this will suck. It's okay if you puke. Wait, what? The words were wrenched out of her mouth as a large section of the ship tore away and the ship began a flat spin wildly, talking into a backward tumble. The view from the beach below was actually incredible. The twisted and burning wreckage of the ship emerged from the clouds, smoking but having slowed to its terminal velocity, tumbling with a fast backspin in an almost vertical fall. As it neared the reef by the shore, an escape pod detached, its rotational inertia upwards, almost precisely navigating its downward fall. The pod arced gently away from the ship as it smashed to ruin, the pod skipping and tumbling in the shallow water before sliding to a stop on the beach, where a dazed human female tumbled out in her hands and knees, trying to get rid of her obvious dizziness and nausea. She rose to her feet, looking at the smoking ruin of her ship, not quite believing what she had just survived. Well, that certainly sucked. She glanced at her rifle, hoping the AI was still alive in there somehow. You have, it's so bad, but I'm a dumb rifle now. She squealed in delight, happy to not be alone on this barren shipwreck survival situation. Well, it's going to be tough to survive here until we get rescued. Not so tough. Look up. Just then a shadow fell over her, and she looked up to see a cargo shipping container drifting down on its emergency parachutes. It settled on the beach not 20 yards from her. She recognized it as from a ship. Colony goods and wares, if she wasn't mistaken. Okay, well now it is impressive. I mean, have you always been this awesome? Looks like I need to upload my new best friend into something more respectable. Let's see what we've got here. After a few minutes of rummaging. Oh sweet, cases of rifle ammo. End of story. There is a new legend on the horizon. Blueberry Cat has taken the T6 Patreon spot. Thank you very much, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone when I say that. I would just like to thank our T5 members, Lord Azrical, Ambrose Cattell, Quantum Wednesday, Drexoon WRE, Blueberry Cat, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Bushmaster 177, and Leslie 517. Thank you very much.